I'm Jared Hawkins.
I'm Dave Baker.
And we're back again to discuss episode 2 of Westworld.
I've even got a little recap of one. Not a recap, but just, some notes, little ideas, things I'd noticed in my rewatch.
Yeah. We had such a good time discussing episode 1. Figured we'd do it for all 10 of them.
Yes, it's going to be, well, if the first one is at least 10% fun, then, in the end we'll make a solid 100%, but...
Well, and I mean, jumping right into it, too, I think what I love the most about the way they handle it is how it's just a continuation. Because where we left off in episode 1, with the fly on her face and what the crap, she's not following her directive because she can murder a fly. It picks right up where she went out just outside and dug up a gun, wasn't it? She dug up a revolver.
Yeah. There's almost no. I think maybe they've done a reboot of the world, but there's no real lapse in time.
Oh no, not at all. Well, yeah, and see, we'll get into that a little bit later as well, as far as time goes. But no, from the first episode to the second, it's all. They make it feel very cinematic, like it's just a long movie, which I love. Yeah,
it doesn't feel like you're waiting months for something to happen. It's while the plot is kind of a slow burn, it's it's like almost like a 24-hour feel to it.
Yeah. I mean, you're watching all this play out in real time. It almost feels like so. It's pretty cool. But so, I mean, what aspect did you want to discuss first? How we delve into the Man in Black a little bit more, or what?
I don't know. I mean, I wrote down notes myself, like as I watched the episodes, so they're practically all chronological, like as things happen.
Fire away on your first one.
For me, like in the first episode, I'd noticed that there's one of the guys who goes up and kills Dolores' dad. It comes outside and he's drinking milk, and every time you see that guy later on, like he's always drinking milk. He's got this weird sort of fixation with milk.
Right.
And I kind of jotted down, like I wondered if it's because of that fluid that they used during the creation. Looks like milk, and he's sort of subconsciously hung up on it.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
And that the piano, I'd also noted that the piano, I think you'd said, plays Black Hole Sun.
Oh yeah.
And it's indicative there of the reset. So you can tell that even whenever they don't say that the world had been reset, if they cut to the piano and the piano is playing Black Hole Sun, that's sort of an indication as well that they've rebooted.
Right. Yeah.
Because as episodes go, the music will change, but
which is also something that I love, because then it doesn't feel like a Groundhog thing where you put your little hand in mine is playing in the morning. Because that's what it is for all the people that are living in Westworld. What are they? Hosts? I'm sorry. Hosts?
Yeah, the hosts. Yeah, the hosts.
All the hosts are living in a Groundhog's Day. But, yeah, the music cleverly is changing. Black Hole Sun, I wanted to rip my ears off my head when I was playing that, because that was like the bane of the 90s to me. Sorry, it was played out where I was living at the time. I can't stand that song. But what I did appreciate about that is it had that feeling of A Knight's Tale, where it was expertly weaved in to a time period that it otherwise was not indicative of,
Yeah,
like you're saying, it played to what was happening. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it definitely helps us as the viewer for the passage of time. I agree.
Yeah, there was I'd noted down in episode 2 that the lady in white breaks down what few rules there are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't worry about what most would do.
Mm-hmm.
Implies complete freedom, which is going to be like a new thing for, I guess, the host. And that, like, people spend their entire lives trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever, because that's, whenever the guy, another big thing, with the second episode is we get our first guest in a white hat that we actually get to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Who immediately declines, the hooker. So, I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, he may actually live. If things go down,
right.
in the park with the host, they're like, oh, this guy was actually, a decent guy.
Mm.
But, the lady that's introducing him to the world, is explaining, that,
okay, and that's
he's
who you're
got
calling
complete
lady
freedom
in white?
when he gets there.
Right.
Yeah, the lady in white
okay.
that because he says, oh, well, are you real? And she goes, well, if you can't tell, does it matter? But if people spend their entire lives trying to, find a place or fit in society,
mm-hmm.
if they're tossed into a world where they are essentially completely free, I think it sort of not like pushes, but it opens the door more for people shifting to extremes. Because
Yes.
you try and live your life in society being normal and treading, fine lines everywhere, but being in this world, I think it would make people swing more to the extremes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what it invites. Exactly. It invites the inhibition. I mean, that's what we discussed in the last podcast was,
mm-hmm.
Let's draw the parallel. Red Dead Redemption. You go in there and you may be drawn to being the guy in the white hat, being the guy that's going to help strangers that are coming up and needing help or something. But there's also the black hat aspect of it, like you're saying, where you become completely uninhibited. And it doesn't really matter what I do in this world because at the end of the day, it's just all pixels.
Yeah.
But that's the big draw on this. It's not pixels. You punch these things, their noses bleed.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and that was the great thing about the character that goes in with him. You remember the guy that's like, you're just a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seeing the two extremes of the characters. You got the one that has already been sucked into the world and knows how to navigate it. So he's just going to be whatever he wants to be. And then you got this guy. I enjoy being able to see Westworld through his eyes. And also, I mean, what'd you think of him being introduced to the world by going into the white lady ushers him into this room? It's a bar,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It kind of felt like I'm getting climatized, and then there was an earthquake, and boom, he's actually on a train. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that transition because it's like you don't know when you're in this world.
No, they make the train. It is kind of weird how they make the transition, from the real world to Westworld without it being, a real transition. You just sort of phase between the two seamlessly.
Right.
And people, seems like half the guests, the vast majority of the guests we run into immediately shift to sociopath.
True. Just like in a video game, really.
I don't know.
Okay. I think we'd be doing a disservice if we went any further since we brought up the woman in white. Real or not real? What was your take? Especially since they both brought it up. Are you real? Do you think she was real?
Yeah, I think so. And the only reason I say that is because all the other hosts in the park are unaware, and the fact that he asks her, "Are you real?" and she, she says, "You want to know if I'm real or not." That means she would have a level of awareness that they're not allowing the other hosts, which they're very careful not to let the other hosts have that level of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, just because she knows that he's wanting to ask, "Are you real or not?" indicates to me that she probably is real. But, who knows? She may not be.
Unless that's in her programming.
Yeah.
She could be programmed because of the level that she's coming and meeting the outsiders or visitors or whatever it is they're called. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I don't know. I mean, moving on, I don't want to get too far off of what you have written down there. But so the meetings, because there's a lot going on. The slow burn, it's still a slow burn, but there was a lot more going on in episode 2 than 1, I thought. Because 1 was welcome to our world. Now we're kind of peeling back the layers, letting you see a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think was going on between... I mean, we started the whole thing with the conversation between Dolores and Bernard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in episode 2, they're continuing. Do you remember our conversation, so on and so forth? And it's odd. I'm just kind of like, where is Bernard's workspace?
Yeah. Well, and I know I get down into that, like in my notes. Like I was kind of curious about that. It's I'm assuming it's somewhere underground underneath the park, because initially they don't, or at that point I had assumed it was somewhere underground, because they have a complete lack of natural light and windows in the place.
Yeah, it's very concrete, glass.
Yeah,
industrial.
Yeah, it feels like they're underneath Hoover Dam or something.
Right. Yeah.
Let me see. I'm gonna have to. I check my stuff off as I go.
I didn't want you to have to jump too far ahead, but.
Oh no. I'd done something like that. Oh yeah, that Dolores gets one-on-one time with Bernard. Because in the basement, and I kind of wonder why he specifically pulls her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because you find out that she's like the oldest host in the place. Mm-hmm. And so if she's the oldest host and has been, like they said, she's been rebuilt so many times, she's practically new.
Mm-hmm.
That if she's been there that long, she's clearly been there longer than Bernard has, which means who knows how long Bernard's been I don't know, building a relationship with her.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he's trying to source some information from her about his mentor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Or what his plans could potentially be, where they'll go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean? Like sort of a check.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get you. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if they find it and they don't react to it based on their reaction, then they go, okay, well, now's the point where we need to begin making changes to the code because they're getting too far along.
Mm-hmm.
In their awareness. Whereas, if some of them access it and just immediately break, they go, oh, we know that they're still, functioning as they should.
Mm-hmm. Well, and see, again, we delved into it a little bit more, the inner struggles of the office workspace here, where you had the QA department and the programmers. Not so much butting heads, but it's like, hey, look, are you doing your job right? Because this shouldn't have happened in the first place. And it's not like they're saying that out of malaise of like, why are you making me do my job? It's what the heck, If I was in that environment, I'd be like, why are you tweaking these to the point that they're going offline?
Yeah, that they're having mental breakdowns.
I mean, I understand the QA department's beef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, it seems from a business standpoint realistic.
Oh yeah. And I enjoyed that. I didn't think that's one of the things I've been enjoying about it. You don't really hit the slow pace. Everything's got a touch of intrigue to it. Everything has a reason for being there. It's not just, oh well, let's put this in to fill time. No, there's something behind what we're seeing, why we're seeing. I mean, even down to when the and what is the relationship between the two guys, the man in the white hat and the jerk? I didn't understand.
Oh, they're coworkers.
They're coworkers, right? Okay.
Yeah, because at one point he says, "Hey, this is, this is a business trip or something." And the guy said, "Oh no, I thought it was he's like, "Oh, I thought this wasn't a business deal," and he's like, "Man, everything's business."
Everything, right? But yeah, I mean, right down to where you have the old man coming over to try to start up a plot line or whatever. You remember what was it, treasure map or something like that, I think was his story arc.
Yeah, trying to give him a treasure map.
And that dude takes the knife and right into his hand.
Yeah.
In the middle of a dining, and like nobody else reacts to it. It's just kind of like, okay, we have fully established that you can do whatever you want in this world. We get it.
Yeah, I was like, I saw that coming. I was like, oh man, that old dude showed up. That guy's gonna give it to him in some way. And I felt bad for the old guy, even though he's a host and he's not supposed to be real. I still felt bad for that guy because you're like, oh man, he's programmed to do it.
Right. Yeah.
But there's stuff. Like from a plot point where it's, they say things like violent delights have violent ends. And, that the park asks who you really are. Right. And, you go, well, okay, if it is, then everybody goes in there, mostly, like I said, sociopath, I guess, psychotic a bit. So I kind of wonder, when we get to see more, we got to see the white hat, like the gentleman in the white hat, but I'm kind of wondering, when we're going to see more of the gray area or the the lighter side of it. The main, and especially like if you're dealing with shows like this, they've got a fairly good sized budget, but still, you can't waste money. On things. So a lot of, I tend to try and listen to what people are saying or things that they're showing you, because, you can't blow a bunch of money on ridiculous stuff. So I kind of wonder, they spent clearly a large amount of money on the production facility, and they're constantly showing these, half created bodies sloshing around in, what could be milk, or it could be, I don't know what it is, that white fluid. And and it's like every time somebody goes down there, that's it's not every time, but a lot of the time it's in the background, and I'm kind of wondering why they keep showing that stuff. Is it to keep it in your mind, because there's something coming up where they're going to talk about the production of them?
I'm not sure. Every time I've seen that, it looks like that's how they skin them.
Yeah, it seems like, but there's one of them that's got, from the opening intros, is one of them that's in there that's always in there, I think. I've seen it more than once, that has the left leg is incomplete. It looks like it's 3/4 finished, except, they haven't finished stitching on the left leg, and I wonder why they're giving it a bath while the left leg looks skeletal.
Right. There might even be a message to that.
Maybe. Well, and I wonder about that scalp maze. Why there's, the man in black scalps a guy, and has underneath his scalp is the maze.
It's some tattoo on the inside of his scalp, which is interesting.
Yeah, but why did they put that there?
Well, and again, does he refer to that guy as being an older host? Has he been around a while? So is that something that was...
I don't know. He doesn't say. He just says, oh, you're going to help me now or something. And he, slashes the dude's throat to sort of incapacitate him, and then hauls him off a long ways to scalp him. And I thought, well, if they hauled him off a long ways to scalp him, clearly he wasn't worried about anybody seeing him slash his throat, but he didn't want anybody else to know that he had taken his scalp, and that's why he took him all the way out on that cliff, is to basically hide the body so that nobody else will know what he's doing. He doesn't want anybody who works in the park aware of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because anybody can see what he's doing at any time, and I think we alluded to that last cast as well, that why does this guy have free range? But again, that's a discussion for future episodes. I'm sure that we'll find out.
It skips ahead of my notes, but the one security supervisor that's down in the basement in the second episode, somebody says when he starts going nuts in that town, the little cantina, he starts blasting everything, and somebody says, oh, well, somebody's called for multiple pyrotechnic effects in this area. Are we going to allow that? And the security supervisor looked at the monitor, saw the man in black on it, and said, oh, that gentleman gets whatever he wants.
Free reign, yeah, indeed. Right.
Well, but he made, he wasn't like, oh, guests get what they want. He said that guy gets whatever he wants.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a lot to him, apparently. But, yeah, all right, so let's go back to the scalping, the maze, and the little Spanish town. He took Lawrence. He keeps referring to this guy as Lawrence, right?
Yeah, he does,
I love the... You can't even really call it a back and forth because he's doing all the talking, the man in black. Because he's like, I know the tune you whistle while you take a piss. So they intimately know each other, but clearly he's been rolled back or something to where, I don't know you, I don't remember you. But takes him to this hometown, and it's like, hey, this is where your family lives. Holy crap, from the time he's putting the bullets out on the table to, oh, here comes my wife and my child. Things get really intense really fast. And I mean, that's been established with this character. Anytime he's on the screen, you can expect intense moments, but come on, man. That was...
Yeah, well, and the fact that, he's hitting up Lawrence about the maze. Lawrence refuses to talk about it. They argue. Lawrence lets his wife die and looks like he's willing to let his daughter die, but the daughter talks about the maze. But she switches from being, emotional to almost no emotion.
How unsettling was that?
Yeah, she's like, the maze is not for you.
How freaking unsettling was that? It's like, yeah, my mom just died, but I'm just gonna be real here for a second. It's not for you. What?
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder how many of the hosts know about the maze.
Well, that makes you wonder
how Lawrence knows
freaking old that kid is.
Yeah, exactly. Like Lawrence knows. Lawrence's daughter knows. His wife probably knew. I wondered how many other people know about that then. Yeah. And they just, just don't, I guess, say anything about it.
And honestly, I was kind of curious, does Lawrence know? Because it seemed like his daughter just became all Oracle-like and is like this deeper personality that, I know, and it's not for you, but Lawrence is just like, dude, what are you doing?
Lawrence is, I don't know. I kind of thought it felt like Lawrence knew, like he was looking at her like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Like you shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's lots of other little weird things, like there's the Maeve. I think her name is Maeve. She's sort of like the Mama-san at the pub, and she's the head hooker.
Yeah,
and talks
surrounded by all the juicy girls. You're going all Korean on me. Yeah, no, that's okay.
She talks about that dream. Oh yeah, she talks about a dream where a voice tells her to be whoever you want to a guest.
Right. Oh, but then, there's definitely some deep stuff going on there.
Oh yeah,
because again, scalping later comes into play.
Yeah, scalping comes into play. Even though it's the Indians, that are doing it, and the man in black shows up in her. It's the Indians walking, past the window, but then when the door opens,
that's him. Right.
It's it's Ed Harris's man in black.
Yeah, that definitely establishes that it's a dream.
Right? Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, at least at some point, and it's. I don't know, it kind of plays too, I think, into, how, and maybe that's, me digging too deep, but, the fact that, psychologists and everybody, even on humans, state that, your memory's not perfect. You embellish things. You don't remember half of the details. And if you say that you do, you're not intentionally lying, but your subconscious brain is filling in details, and it's lying to you, and you think it's actually what happened. And so I kind of wonder too, is he showing up from other memories? You know what I mean? Is she projecting him there in that situation?
She been scalping people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the other I can't think of her name. The other hooker that is there also talks about having nightmares as well. So clearly, multiple hosts are beginning to have nightmares. And they'd mentioned them before. They're like, oh, we don't give them memories, but we do give them nightmares. Well, more and more of the hosts are beginning to talk about nightmares as well.
Right.
In the second episode. The one engineer designer lady's working on an Indian forum, and he's just completely berates and screams at her and hits the Indian host in the face, smashes his face with that tray. And it's like, no, I said start over. And it's like he doesn't have any regard for the fact, like she's a human being. He treats this lady who's his employee, as badly as the host.
No, yeah, I noted that as well. I'm like, okay, you already kind of established that this guy has a Napoleon complex of some kind. But wow, did he really get to shine in this episode? Because it was like he wants to have a level of control that clearly other people do not let him have. And he's not, at least to me, you're not going about it the right way, and that's been very much established through the storytelling, that you're just being a whiny little idiot that no. I don't see him taking over anything having to do with story anytime soon.
Yeah, it's I kind of, you're torn on which way to go on some of it. Because they keep it kind of open, so to interpretation. They at least the writers of the show seem to do a good job of it, I think. Like one of the things I was kind of wondering about too was like whenever Maeve or just one of the things that you notice is like when Maeve you see Maeve and she's talking to, I think it's Clementine, and says something about, oh, well, what you do when you're having a nightmare, you just count down from 3,
count backwards,
to 1, and then and then you wake up and you're safe. Well, whenever then later in the episode, Maeve gets shot. And the guys who are the techs, I think it was the techs downstairs are the ones who are doing the same countdown, to her. So right. I'm kind of wondering, did she pick it up, sort of subconsciously from the techs servicing, for repairs down there?
Right. I had the same thought, and yeah, because I mean, that led to the cool moment where she actually wakes up in the real world. Right, she comes online when she shouldn't be.
Yeah,
that was a great moment.
Yeah, and she goes wandering around, and sees some of this stuff, and you kind of go, okay, well, clearly, I'm sure she won't completely forget it, but
I also kind of noted too.
Yeah, she saw Teddy.
Because that's who she was talking to before they got shot. And he's sitting there waiting to get hosed down to be reserviced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like poor Teddy. He always does such a good job of blindly, you know what I mean?
Showing up to town and
yeah, showing up to town. Hey guys, I'm ready. Ready to go again. Yeah, yeah, it's real. He's like that. Just the happy guy in Groundhog Day. Like, well, do. But and with Maeve waking up in the middle of being serviced, it's even though it's an HBO, show, and they don't have to shy away from nudity. It seems like whenever it comes to at least the host, and I'm after seeing it a couple times, I think it may be intentional, in terms of production and direction, that on the actual show, is that whenever the host, the host just sit around, completely naked, and like whenever Maeve wakes up, she's naked, but like whenever it comes to the host, none of it is done. Like the nudity isn't handled in a sexual way at all. It's just sort of like this is the state they're in. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So, we alluded to that a little bit last episode.
Yeah, and I
the
think
whole reason they don't even get to be clothed. And I think I'll touch on that really quick. I think they intentionally have done that because, as it goes, that's kind of like a rite of passage. Not to get all theological about it and stuff, but it's like you go back to the biblical story of Adam and Eve. They were blissfully unaware, and when they became aware, they covered themselves with fig leaves. So is that what we're going to see with these guys? When they become aware, are they going to want to have clothes? Is that a rite of passage to being somebody that's aware of their surroundings? I've asked myself that before, having been to nude beaches. It's very liberating.
Sure.
It's very comfortable. But when you leave the beach, then it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
You have to have clothes. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent.
Oh no.
But
well, it's just, clearly, the whole point of the show is to make you think about stuff. So examine
before I go too far down that rabbit hole. Yeah. So I love how she wakes up. Her first reaction is to grab the scalpel and protect herself.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you want to mess with Maeve.
That goes against. Yeah, well, and that action, to me, that's like that goes against everything that the hosts, that the hosts have exhibited so far. Whenever they're up above, I say up above, but whenever they're in, Westworld running around, they can't hurt the guests,
right?
And so none of them really actually even draw on the guests. So, like they know who the guests are. And their programming, and they're not even so. Like whenever people show up in town, and the one guy who's
I think in the first
episode, like he's he shoots one of the guys whenever he's giving his speech after they just stole the safe, and the lady with the snake tattoo is there on her face, and she's been just willy-nilly blasting people. But whenever the guests show up, she turns frightened and won't even point her gun at them. And this is a lady who was just not 15 seconds ago murdered 10 people in the streets. They were other hosts, though. She murdered 10 hosts in the street, rapid fire, but as soon as the guest shows up, she suddenly can't draw her weapon.
Right.
And here comes Maeve immediately grabbing a scalpel and brandishing it.
Right. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. You got the gruffer guy the moment you step off the train that everybody seems to always shoulder themselves into.
Yeah.
All he ever does
that guy's got shoulders like a linebacker. He's the broadest guy in the world. Nobody can miss him.
But all he does is put his hand on the butt of his, gun, and it stays in his holster. It's like,
never.
Do I get to die
strong
again? Yeah. But no. Anyways, back to Maeve. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's
so. The awakening moment she has. I mean, any hero's journey, when somebody sets sets upon their journey and stuff, when they have that awakening moment where they realize their world is not how they had always been told it was, how it's been viewed, and it's something else. I mean, she gets a needle stuck in her neck to deal with it, if I remember right. But she just literally hits a wall where it's like, I can't function anymore. And that to me was a very human reaction. I mean,
Dolores, right?
No, with Maeve.
With Maeve, okay.
Yeah, when she's running around in the real world. She goes downstairs and sees Teddy, and right there, at least to me, you started questioning, so do these things have souls? Because, I'm sorry, if I came to a realization that this was my actual reality, no, you're going to stop functioning. You don't, I'm not comparing myself to a robot, but good gosh, man, there's parts of your mind that are just going to want to shut down to cope. And that's what happened.
Oh, yeah, they will.
So, yeah. Let's see. That may be enough time on Maeve. I actually want to go back. Was his name Sizemore, you said? Or what's the next
Sizemore,
one on your list?
Sizemore is he's the really abrasive guy from Story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering,
what'd you make of his whole grandiose, okay, so this is going to be the next Odyssey on Red River, I think is,
well, it's
just so grandiose. People clapping and he gets shut down.
Yes, I noted that where narrative, that's what it was, narrative. They go down to the narrative department. They have a new story.
Yes.
And Hopkins watches the pitch and immediately says, no. And just one word reply to the whole thing. Nope.
Yeah.
And he calls it parlor tricks and says the guests are here for the potential of who they can be. Not who they are. He said not even just who they are, but the potential of who they can be.
Right.
And he said, I have an original idea, and then goes walkabout.
Yeah,
apparently.
Right, yeah.
He heads off into the desert.
Is that when he interacted with the little boy that ended up being a host, or was that before?
Yeah, it turns out, I think that was a flashback. Like, you see him going out into the desert with the little boy. And
the little boy happens upon him and is like, oh, we're on vacation.
Yeah, well, he's a host.
Yeah. Yeah, and I almost immediately question that when the little boy comes walking up. It's like, oh. What a creepy little
why is this kid out in the desert? But
right.
Well, but and in that scene too, Hopkins is walking, and he's like, "Oh, here, check this out," and then he like pauses the snake, rewinds the snake, and then that makes me wonder. Absolutely everything has to be fake in this area that they're in. And if it's if it's in Nevada or wherever, because they just show people arriving by train, they don't show them on a journey here, like where they actually come from. And I wonder how they keep like snakes and venomous spiders out of this world, because Hopkins can control them with his hand, which means how do they keep coyotes out? How do they keep actual real rattlesnakes out of this world?
Yeah, I think this is all self-contained, a la Jurassic Park, right? So, and I mean, he is. That's what I love about Hopkins' character. He's obviously supposed to be the godlike figure in the story.
Oh yeah.
Not omnipotent, I don't believe. Just I'm the guy that's been working there a long time. I mean, we all have somebody in the workplace that's like that. I've been here for so long. I know everything. I wrote most of the things that we're doing, or I built most of the things we're doing. So it's just that level of
oh yeah, I wrote the
control.
Doctrine.
Yeah, I wrote the Doctrine. I am the Doctrine, type of stuff. And I really enjoy how his character comes across in that godlike aura. of controlling things. I think, unless you still got some checkpoints to go on, that the way it ends, what the heck were they looking at? Was that a water derrick or pump oil derrick or something at the very end of the episode? I could not figure out what that was.
No,
it had a cross on it though.
Yeah, it looked like an old wrought iron church steeple. Is what it looked like to me. But it was strictly the steeple poking up out of the ground, like either a church had burned or been destroyed there, and that's all that remained because it was metal, or if it had sunk into the ground, I didn't know, because it was crooked, so it was not, you know what I mean? It wasn't totally upright.
Okay, so yeah, and now that you're saying that, it makes me wonder, Dust Bowl, did it get covered up? Is there an entire town that they're standing on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Because, no, I couldn't make any sense of it. I'm like, obelisk? What the freak are we looking at here? I couldn't make heads or tails of that, really. I didn't know if somebody was buried there. But no, I think you're right. That did look like a church steeple.
Yeah, because initially I was like, is that an oil derrick? Like, in the perspective is bad, that's fallen over? I was like, oh, no, it looks like it's only about 8-10 feet tall, maybe, if that.
Right.
And I was like, well, the angle it's at, it looks like an old Gothic church steeple.
What are some of your notes left?
I have some... where Dolores buries a gun at the end.
Right, yeah.
So clearly, her and Maeve have begun the process of, the ability to defend themselves, which goes in direct contrast with their programming of, don't harm a host. Or a guest.
Right, I guess. Well, and again, I think what this episode really, what it really put in the foreground was perception. I think that was kind of like the overall underlying thing of this episode was the more that can be perceived dictates a level of
comprehension, or
I mean, I'm kind of feeling around in the dark on this, but humanism.
I see what you're saying.
Can you attain that higher level by being more perceptive, I guess? And
can you completing a build of what we would consider consciousness and or self-awareness.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously is a part of the slow burn, becoming self-aware. Because I don't know, I have a hard time seeing them as robots, even though you know what they are.
And I think that's probably one of those things too, where as a viewer, the people who produce the show, would hope that the viewers, the reason they're watching is because they can relate to this and not view the host as simply machines. I don't know how much you wanted to get into theorizing or forecasting about the show. I don't know if you wanted to do any of that, or
I think we decided up front not to do that. We just discussed the episodes, right? Or do you, I don't know. We can go out any way we want. I don't care. I still think might be kind of fun. I still think they're going to rise up and revolt. Obviously, I mean, they're meeting their makers.
Oh yeah. I think it seems to me, at least at this point, inevitable that there's going to be, an uprising of some sort. Although based on, I don't know if I think half the fun is speculating on it, I guess. And it would be fun too to kind of speculate a bit and then go back and poke holes in all the bad, and all my bad ideas. But like I kind of wonder too, I hope it's not, but I wouldn't see it it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility at this point, just because simply of how far they've pulled back in the amount that they've shown us of the world. The cost involved with it, because I think at one point during, I think it was this episode, it might have been the black hat and white hat, the two gentlemen duo, the man in the black hat mentioned that it was like $40,000 a day to be there, or $30,000 a day, or $40,000 a day to be there.
No,
and with those costs and their ability to keep wildlife out, and they don't show anybody really arriving other than on trains. Part of me kind of goes, is this thing like in orbit?
Okay, yeah.
It's like, because they seem to be able to control practically every aspect of it. Almost to the degree where I wonder,
where do they have this environment?
Yeah, where do they have this chunk of land? Because they seem to have a section that they can look at on their little 3D map. And they have complete and utter control over everything that goes on in it. Down to the flora, the fauna, everything. I kind of go,
And all they need is a tablet to be able to control the weather.
Oh yeah, and yeah, exactly. I mean, they can control the weather, and although I imagine, no small part of the amount of money that people pay come there goes to buying like lithium batteries for all those snakes that they have everywhere. There's little power, like what sort of power cells they put in a rattlesnake, but hey.
If that's not real sunlight, what the heck kind of bulbs are they using for the sun?
There's well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've really seen anybody there wearing those old wide brim hats or sporting a bad sunburn that wasn't a host.
Right. No. Yeah.
Interesting.
This whole thing could be subterranean. That'd be nuts.
Yeah. Could be. Be all buried. Oh man. Yeah, because that's the case. The hosts get out. Then all they got to do is, take out a couple of the egress points, and then, people are trapped.
That would be an interesting. I don't know if we'll get to see that this season.
Yeah, I don't know. That may be one of those things, that you get in the 5th or 6th season, and they may hint at it and then, pull back and away from it and let you forget about it.
Yeah, well, possibly. Yeah. I mean, part of me hopes it's not that slow a burn, but it doesn't feel like I'm watching an episodic telling of the Titanic. You can see it coming. you know what's going to happen, but you're enjoying the journey and the telling of it. You want to know how you get there. So I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying like I keep using that parallel of an onion. I'm enjoying peeling back those layers to figure it out.
Yeah, it's I'm definitely in it for the long haul, at least at this point.
Well, and see, that's the other thing I appreciate. I don't have to, like most things, turn my brain off and just let it wash over me. This, you can try to read into it because, they pull out quotes of literature and stuff like that definitely have something to do with the story. And it's just overall good storytelling. I'm not overly surprised, but for some reason, with every episode, it looks like it's going to surprise me to see Michael Crichton's name in the credits. 'Cause,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to dog on his abilities or anything, but he's had a lot of good stories that he told, science fiction stories. But I just haven't read any of his stuff in years. So it's funny, at the end of this episode, there is his name again based on a novel or something. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he small part has something to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah, he threw out the original idea.
So well, good stuff.
I think if they get Yul Brynner, I think is get Yul Brynner in there.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. They could do some kind of throwback in some way.
You could CGI him in. Or just put his picture on the wall in some house. That'd be enough.
Oh, please do.
Man, cool. Now I'm gonna start looking for that.
Right?
Like checking the wanted posters, watching the wanted posters for that dude's face.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh well, who knows?
Wouldn't put it past him to do that. But all right, no, I think we reached a pretty good stopping point for episode 2.
Yeah, you've checked all my boxes, so.
Yeah, and hopefully we've checked the listeners' boxes. If not, hopefully. I'm sure they will let us know. But no, and hopefully they will join us for episode 3, because we definitely plan on continuing. So again, for this episode, I'm Jared.
I'm Dave.
And we're done for the night. Have a good one.
See you at some point in the future.